house on Willow Lane. When Maya first saw the house on Willow Lane, it seemed like a dream come true. It was an old Victorian manor nestled at the edge of a dense forest, far enough from the main road to provide a sense of privacy and quiet, but close enough to town to make daily life convenient. Maya and her husband, Sam, had been looking for the perfect house for months, and this one was everything they'd hoped for: charming, mysterious, and big enough for the family they planned to start. The agent assured them it was a bargain for its size and age, almost too good to be true. They should have known there was a reason for that. On the day they moved in, a chill ran down Maya's spine as she walked through the grand entryway. The house was beautiful but cold in an unsettling way. It was almost as if the walls themselves were watching, silent witnesses to years of untold secrets. Sam brushed off her concerns, chalking them up to pre-moving stress, and told her to focus on unpacking. Their first night in the house was quiet, except for the occasional creaks and groans typical of an old structure settling into the colder months. But when Maya went to bed, she could have sworn she heard faint whispers just as she drifted off to sleep. She dismissed it as her imagination, eager to put her paranoia to rest. The next day, they decided to explore the house. They found an old, dusty attic filled with boxes left by previous owners. Maya began going through them, uncovering a strange assortment of things: ancient toys, a broken mirror, and a diary wrapped in faded velvet. The diary was old and worn, its pages yellowed with age. Intrigued, Maya flipped it open and began to read. The entries were from a young girl named Eliza who had once lived in the house. The writing was filled with complaints about her strict parents and strange occurrences she'd witnessed. Shadows that moved on their own, whispers in the night, and doors that locked by themselves. As Maya read on, she felt a growing unease. The last entry was scrawled in a frantic, nearly illegible hand. "They're coming for me. I can't stay here anymore. If anyone reads this, leave this place. Please." A chill ran down her spine, and she quickly closed the diary, feeling as if someone were standing right behind her. She turned around, but the attic was empty. Deciding she'd had enough of the eerie old items, she packed everything back up and closed the door tightly behind her. That night, the whispers returned, but this time they were louder, clearer. Maya couldn't understand the words, but she could tell they were coming from just beyond her bedroom door. She nudged Sam awake, whispering, "Do you hear that?" He groaned and shook his head, mumbling, "It's just the wind." But Maya knew it wasn't. The sound was distinct, like hushed voices, overlapping and echoing through the halls. She lay in bed, eyes wide open, as the whispering continued into the early hours of the morning. Over the next few days, the activity in the house intensified. Lights flickered, and the air felt thick with an oppressive weight. Sam began to feel it too. One evening, as he was working in the basement, he heard a faint, childlike giggle behind him. He spun around, but the room was empty. He tried to laugh it off, but the encounter left him uneasy. Then there was the issue with the mirrors. Every mirror in the house seemed to reflect something slightly off. A shadow here, a flicker of movement there. One night, Maya saw a young girl in her reflection, standing at the end of the hall. When she turned around, there was no one there, but the girl remained in the mirror, her expression solemn, her eyes hollow. Maya screamed, and Sam rushed in, but by then, the girl had disappeared. Desperate for answers, Maya went to the local library to see if there was any history on the house. What she found horrified her. The house had been built in the late 1800s by a man named Theodore Gray, a wealthy industrialist with a dark past. Gray was known to have dabbled in occult practices, seeking power through supernatural means. Rumor had it that he conducted rituals in the basement, using the spirits of children to protect his wealth and keep his family safe from illness. But the story didn't end there. Gray's wife and daughter had both vanished under mysterious circumstances. Some believed they'd fallen victim to his twisted rituals. After Gray's own death, several families moved into the house, but none stayed for long. Accidents, illnesses, and even unexplained deaths seemed to plague every new occupant. Maya returned home feeling shaken, but determined not to let fear take over. That night, as she lay in bed, She heard the familiar whispers. She closed her eyes and tried to ignore them, but the voices grew louder, more desperate. Suddenly, a cold hand brushed her arm. She opened her eyes to see a figure standing over her. A shadowy, indistinct shape with empty eyes and a gaping mouth. She screamed, and Sam jolted awake. The figure disappeared, but the sense of dread remained. They both knew it was time to leave. They packed their bags hastily, planning to leave first thing in the morning. But as they walked down the stairs, the front door slammed shut. The air grew thick and icy, and the lights flickered, plunging the house into darkness. They could hear footsteps coming from the basement, heavy and deliberate, as if someone or something was making its way up. Sam tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. Panic set in as the footsteps grew louder. Suddenly, the whispers returned, filling the room with an unnatural sound that made their skin crawl. They looked around, desperate for an escape, but there was nowhere to go. And then, out of the shadows, the figure emerged. It was Theodore Gray, or what was left of him. His eyes were hollow, his mouth twisted into a cruel grin. He raised a skeletal hand, pointing directly at them. "You're mine," he rasped, his voice echoing with the tortured cries of the children he'd sacrificed. The house seemed to pulse with a dark energy, as if it were feeding off their fear. Just as they felt the darkness closing in, Maya remembered the diary in the attic. She pulled free from Sam's grasp and sprinted upstairs, praying the diary held some clue to breaking the curse in the attic. She found the diary and flipped through the pages, searching for anything that could help. Her heart raced as she read Eliza's final entry once more. "Only fire can cleanse this place." Desperate, she grabbed a canister of kerosene from the corner of the attic and ran back down to the living room, where Sam was still struggling to get the front door open. Without hesitation, she began dousing the room, the smell of fuel filling the air. She grabbed a box of matches from the kitchen and struck one, hesitating only a moment before tossing it onto the kerosene-soaked floor. The fire caught instantly, flames spreading rapidly, consuming everything in their path. Theodore's figure writhed in the flames, his form flickering and distorting, his screams blending with the howls of the trapped spirits. The house groaned and creaked as if in pain, but Maya and Sam managed to break the door down just in time, stumbling out into the cold night air as the flames rose higher. They watched as the fire devoured the house, the inferno illuminating the night sky. The whispers faded, and an eerie silence settled over the area. By the time the fire department arrived, the house was nothing but a smoldering ruin. In the weeks that followed, Maya and Sam tried to move on, but they were forever haunted by what they'd experienced. They had escaped with their lives, but they knew they would never truly be free. At night, in the quiet moments just before sleep, Maya could still hear the faintest whisper, a final echo of the house on Willow Lane, as if it were calling her back. And sometimes, just out of the corner of her eye, she thought she saw the shadow of a little girl watching.